Thank you for making all that stuff up. So I'll start with the really good news is Celine Dion gave us permission to use the song tonight. We had a whole Kid Rock thing planned out, but thank God it was available. So I'm gonna, there's a couple things that you probably have read so much about this movie. It's been pretty well known and all the rumors and things like that. So I'm gonna dispel a couple of rumors. One of them was that we sort of made up a story that the press took a hold of, that the thing was over budget, over schedule, it was kind of crazy and all that sort of stuff. So we just made all that up as a little misinformation campaign. Believe it or not, Fox, right at 1996, they started Fox News, so a little misinformation seemed to be a thing. So I'm going to show you the first clip where somebody didn't tell me that, so I was given an interview and I just, spilled the beans. So they've hid it for all these years, so I'll just show you the very first clip. If you don't mind, Eric, if you don't mind. There's another little bit of misinformation about Jim. Jim being that he could be cranky or he could not be empathetic to coworkers and things like that, or he might be a perfectionist and all that stuff. Again, bullshit. So this little clip here is he knew that the behind the scenes people were filming, and so he put on a little show. So again, all made up. The next bit is there's a couple things about the film that I don't think you could do any better than what we did back then. I say we because I had nothing to do with it, but the next clip is our physical effects department. Tommy Fisher and Scott Fisher, a father and son team, and Scott's a big-time, two-time Oscar winner. Tommy, I know he won one for this, but I don't remember if he won for other movies, but fantastic. And part of the drill that they did was we had to build the studio from scratch. It means it was just, literally had to dynamite the site in Baja, Mexico, and they had to figure out the stages and then the mechanics, the hydraulic rigs that would actually lower the sets into the water for the sinking scenes, but that was a long time. That'd be like 4 months later. But we had to film all the rest of the stuff in this kind of pristine, beautiful sets that Jim had chosen because he wanted you to fall in love with them in the movie. So at the end of the movie, when it does sink and it gets destroyed, you have an empathy or an emotion about it. So this next clip is, in my opinion, they well deserve the Academy Award, Tommy Fisher for this and his crew and Scott and the rest of them. So here's some of the stuff that they went through here. Is something that I'm, all seriousness, particularly proud of, because I don't know if I could do it any better that it was done. I got very impressed by watching Jim's footage of the real Titanic, and it was back then, it was fairly new. Obviously this movie didn't come out, and we saw a little bit of a documentary, and we just couldn't believe that you could actually find the Titanic and actually go and dive it. So it was a very moving thing. So what I had to do is produce the shots that would intercut with this very kind of emotional, ghostly, emotional feeling that you have when you're watching this footage, especially with music attached to it. So we had to film the second mirror sub, or two of them. Anytime you see two mirror subs, that's us, and if you see one mirror sub, that's Jim photographing at the real place. And they have to be sort of identical and be able to cut from one to the other, so you would not blow the emotional feeling you had by seeing this ghostly ship. And remember, this is 25 some odd years ago, and the fascination with Titanic was pretty huge in terms of the real thing. And so this next bit is, I'm proud of it anyway, and I don't think I could do better. And no one's asking me either, so. Play the next one, Eric. Okay, this next thing is, this was a big, huge movie, and we created probably the biggest star to come out of that movie. And you might think it's Leonardo DiCaprio or somebody like that. It's not that. I'm going to show you who the biggest star of this film is, that we came out, and we made it. So, can you play the next clip? This next bit is a little story of mine that how I sort of got into the film business. I became enchanted with this book called Memo from Gabriel Selznick. I was like 16, 17 years old, and it's about a megalomaniac who has no sense of punctuation and all that, and he was mercurial and difficult, and he moved to Hollywood from the East Coast and got into movies and won Academy Awards, and I was curious why my guidance counselor didn't really offer that up for me as well. But the thing that was fascinating is that he produced the most famous film, the highest grossing film, the one that garnered the most Oscar nominations, the one that garnered the most wins, and it figured, well, that night, must be so incredible and it's a once-in-a-lifetime deal. I mean, that is hard to repeat. And even if I were lucky enough to get into the film business, would that ever happen to me? Lucky enough, it happened to me in terms of that I could witness it, but the next story is really something that's very coincidental, and this is film history, is because I was enchanted with David Selznick. I was not David Selznick character, but I met somebody who was. His parents were part of the film business. David Selznick's parents were part of the film business. They grew up in New York, and they moved to California. So this person, John Landau, who you may know, and David Selznick moved to Hollywood at 37 years old, exactly, 37 years old. They won an Academy Award for the highest grossing movie of all time and the one that garnered the most Academy Award nominations. In their case, it was 10, and they won 8. In our case, it was 14 and won 11. And sadly enough, they both had passed away when they were 63 years old. So I met a real life David O. Selznick. I got to witness it. I got to spend that night with him and trips to Paris and all these places with this larger than life character who we really loved him. And he was crazy and nutty and difficult, and we had knockdown, drag out fights, and we'd go out to lunch and all the rest of the stuff. So here's a little slight tribute to John Landau. If you could play the last clip. So that's, I hope you enjoy the movie as much as we enjoyed making it. I don't say that sarcastically. I told Jim also that had I known it was going to be this successful, I only would quit twice instead of 4 times. Anyway, thank you. Enjoy the movie, please.